I didn't think smart.
All right, it is 6:30. Call this meeting to order. The September first Thursday of Wednesday. Have they had meetings on Thursdays previously? Anybody know?
Not that I'm aware of. Mark, I think you do the historian. Have we ever had them on Thursday?
Oh, I don't know. So we're gonna find out if Thursday meetings go quicker than Tuesday meetings. So I'm hopeful that we can maybe shorten reports to the high points and crank right on through here. All right, welcome all guests. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, don't I normally do raise your right hand?
You do that.
All right, it's different. Thursdays are gonna be different.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, do we have anybody for open forum?
No, sir.
No open forum. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say yes.
Yeah.
Opposed? No, all right, and enough fun. All right, can I get a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills?
Make a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on transfer and payment of bills? There was one that looked like, I mean, it read like video gaming, but I'm sure it wasn't. Maybe it was. It was like, well, it was like $5,000, something like that. Game something.
You sure it wasn't the GoDaddy? Could it be our domain host?
No.
I assumed it was East with us.
That's what I was thinking.
What, do you know what?
I'm trying to think.
Maybe it wasn't that much. There were several things. There were 3 things in a row that looked probably like esports. But it was the first one. I was
I know we
curious what it
don't
was.
have that kind of budget for esports, so if you don't mind, I will.
Maybe it was 500 or 600.
Was it this Go Guardian?
There, no,
Was that IFL?
I mean, it just stuck out to me as a weird name. Did like,
I don't think we spent.
It was
I
in
know
the-
we didn't
in the
spend
first third.
$5,000 on it.
okay, maybe it was like $600.
Yeah, maybe $500 or $600 on esports,
Okay.
but that would stretch our esports budget.
So it probably wasn't.
Yeah, purchase it.
Okay. So it probably wasn't esports then.
Registration for kids, but that would be
I can't, I don't have it in front of me, but I will go out and make sure and report back.
This is here.
I can't read that small.
Was it BSN Sports? That's basketball uniforms, 5,000 for.
Power School.
That could be it.
Say that again, Mark.
Power School.
I don't think that was it either. I think it was on the very beginning. Yes, no, I was shocked how much uniforms cost.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. $5,500 for 2 different sports. That's a lot of money for uniforms.
Wait to see if it belongs.
It's going up. I think.
As it here.
Yeah.
Was it in the other one?
That was in this one. All right, any further discussion on that? I'll find it later and.
Ed Council and Legal Services.
No, it was something, it was just a weird name.
I'll copy.
Oh, I know it.
Just PR.
They took it out. Rachel.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Being no discussion, got a motion approval, transfer payment of bills. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Reports. Elementary.
Good evening. So our enrollment for the elementary, looks like it's down a little bit. I will tell you that number has been very fluid. So in the past week, we have gotten 3 new students, for instance. So that number is fluent throughout the times that I've checked it so far this school year. And 277 would be the number that we ended with last year. So that number is changing pretty much daily at this point still, as we're getting new kids in. We also got some new students, probably last month, who are paying tuition income, so we're seeing some of that happen. Celebrations, students are adjusting super quickly to routines and procedures. They're doing a really awesome job. Teachers are doing an amazing job of holding them to those expectations. As I walk around the building, they're doing their job in the hallway. They're walking quietly. And the teachers did an amazing job setting up their classrooms and getting ready for students. Also, thank you to the maintenance and custodial staff for making our building look spectacular. We have had a lot of comments on that. We have also had a lot of positive comments with food services and everything that Mrs. Cross has done to make our lunches better. So we appreciate her for that. Daily in the cafeteria, kids are telling me the lunch is so good this year and they're so excited about what we're having. So that's nice to see. We have a lot of leaders in our schools, lots of positive office referrals going out already this year. I range anywhere from 5 to 10 a day that we're getting to announce at the morning assembly. So that's really awesome to see all those student leaders in our building. Some upcoming events, Dibbles testing was just completed and I will report that to the board next month, the data from that. And then also we have started evaluate testing, which I can present next month once all of the data is collected. I also included math data from the past 2 years in the report. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer that. Our science data, that's only going to be 5th grade for math. It went up 18% last year. So we're moving in the right direction. I know those teachers are working hard to get that number up. Approximately 51% of our students are testing proficient or advanced in that area. So that's a nice increase. Also, as a building, our ELA scores went up 9%. So we'll continue our work with Dr. Jill Brown and with our reading programs. And she's just helping us transition more to the science of reading, which basically studies how the brain learns to read and so that we can teach them in that way. Math is down about 3% last year from the previous year. So I have some plans to address that, such as providing professional development and math concepts such as math talks, mental math, number sense that teachers can take back and use in the classroom. That's also something I've addressed in staff newsletters, just giving them some ideas and some examples of how it's used in the classroom to increase those scores. I will also meet with math eligible grade levels bi-weekly to discuss strategies to implement to address those standards that we may be lacking in. So the math data site actually lets us break it down by standard, and it tells us what percentage of our kids are getting those things correct. And that gives us areas for improvement that we can then target those specific standards that may be a little lower. So we plan to address that at data team meetings for each grade level that is in that math testing grade range. Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
With regards to the state testing, okay, we had a series of assessments we gave them last year such that we tracked the students. Okay. It was a part of the end of the year presentation. Are we using the same ones?
So are you referring to the evaluate testing?
I don't know. It was like, there was a way that, I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, evaluate.
Okay, so evaluate.
Like,
Look for like 4 or 5 years.
well, it's just like we had, you know, we're giving them quarterly or whatever assessments,
Yes.
tracking progress, in which this, and it was my, you know, no critique of yours in any way. It
Absolutely.
was my observation that the trend was, and our improvement trend on those particular assessments did not match our scores at all.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So-
like I just is there, I would like are we looking at that?
Yes,
Like,
so-
altering those assessments to more so mirror the state assessments, such
So
that
you're-
our kids can be more prepared, you know?
So you're
like that.
saying our scores went up, but if you look at it compared to the state average, it was
Correct.
lower.
Yeah, like said grade level was doing well on those particular assessments. And said grade level might very well have done even worse than they did like the year before. We were having those type of
It
things,
seemed like every year we hear
you
a
know,
lot of positive news. We're better than last time, but then if we look at it on a statewide norm,
Right.
we're still worse.
I mean, you want to look at it, like, you want to look how the kid does as a second grader and how they're going to do as a third grader, right?
Absolutely.
If that's what you want, that's what you want to compare.
Yes.
And like, we weren't doing well in that comparison, yet we were doing well. The kids were on the way we tracked. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
it
like
does.
that.
So we are doing evaluate for this year. Next year, we will be switching to a different state approved assessment because actually this is our last year that we can be grandfathered into the evaluate program. It's not going to be a state approved testing program anymore for the state of Missouri. So we are bringing in 4 different vendors this year to come and give us their presentations and be able to have teachers pass and buy-in. And one thing that we will be looking at very closely is how that then correlates to the map testing. Because some programs, obviously, with the assessments do better when correlating to the map and correlating to the state standards than others. And so we will make sure that we do a nice job of choosing a program that's gonna be best to help
Right.
us score so.
But this year we're going with the other.
This year it'll be with evaluate. That was part of our, to my understanding, our summer school contract that we had one more year with them.
Okay.
So we will look at addressing that. That is definitely on the radar. We will have to switch.
One can address it through classroom assessments anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
like-
like the classroom level assessments, our teachers are working really hard on creating new curriculum maps that are directly aligned with state standards. That's something that we're working on right now during data team meetings. And then from that will come those
Right.
common formative.
Because like, your concern is this as well, I know. But I mean, that's not the numbers you want to look at.
Yes,
It was by no stretch was it poor across the board for everybody. Of course not. We had kids doing a great job, teachers doing a great job, of course, but yet. As a district, we need to address that. I mean, making sure our assessments match the way we want our kids to perform on the table. They're hitting those particular standards and skills, you know what I mean, like that.
absolutely.
Okay.
And that's something that I think when we start breaking down that map data by the Missouri Learning Standards, we'll be able to create better assessments inside the classroom as common formative assessments to address those areas. You may still see some of the data with evaluate this year that might not be exactly where we want it. But yes, I believe we're moving in the right direction to make sure we're teaching to those Missouri Learning Standards and we're putting all those targets so that then they are performing well on the map test, because that will be what they're presented with on the map test.
Right. And by no stretch do I mean to grill you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that at all.
No,
Okay,
absolutely.
like-
That's a great question.
Okay,
And like I said, we'll continue our work with Jill Brown, and she's a consultant that helps us in the area of reading map. I noticed that was an area that we could definitely improve upon if you're looking at map scores from the past 2 years. And so I'll plan to address that through professional development and make sure I'm giving the teachers the skills they need to then help us raise those scores and help students achieve their greatest level. Any other questions?
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Middle school, high school.
Hello. So I started off with our enrollment numbers as well. So we are down about 5 students this year from last year. At the middle school right now, we have 115 students. At the high school, we have 212. So grand total for middle school and high school is 327. That's about 5 down from last year. But I think that's still pretty steady there. So with this school year, it's gotten off to a great start. Our teachers are really working hard. It's kind of nice for me coming in, kind of knowing the staff, knowing the kids. It's definitely been a more easy start to the school year this year than it was last year. And I'm really excited to see what we can do with the rest of it. So our first progress reports came out this week. With Infinite Campus, we do not have the capabilities to actually email out report cards anymore. So what we're going to try to do is not print them out, because again, we're trying to do some, paper saving, and everybody has technology at home. So what we're going to do is text message parents whenever those final reports are there. What they can do is log on to their Infinite Campus portal, and it'll say their finalized grades are in that portal and they can view them there. So whenever quarter reports come up, we'll shoot out an email, say, hey, jump on there, check out your student's report card. And if there's any parents that don't have those capabilities, they can let us know and we'll make sure and print them off for them. So we're gonna try that out, see how it works. Hopefully it works with our new system.
Did we get a link to that? How long ago did we get the link to Infinite Campus? So I got that email today and I thought, well, how the heck do I get to Infinite Campus? And I didn't spend the time to go to try to find it, but a
So we
link
got it in
alongside of
August,
that.
but a lot of parents did not do that. And I think Eric, did you send it
I
out
would do
maybe
that.
last Monday?
Yeah, I sent another one out on Monday.
Okay,
People who didn't have a
okay.
portal associated with their.
And if you have trouble getting on, give us a holler at the high school and Alice is becoming a professional at this, so she can help you get all set up.
I'm sure I won't, but I just was looking for a link for Infinite Campus at that exact minute. Because, yeah, most people aren't. Good, is it an app? Is it an app?
Or you can't-
Website that you can.
Oh, so it's a website.
There's a parent portal app you can download also.
Okay, so my recommendation would be include that link every time you send that notice out,
Absolutely. That's.
so
a
I
good
don't have
idea.
to look.
So you can just click and go,
Yeah.
right? I can email it just for you.
Continue.
Find it, but I went to this website.
Awesome. But no, that's a great idea. I'll make sure every time we send that out, we'll add that in there next time.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we had a really great PD day on September 11th. So we had our sheriff's department came in and did our intruder training. They did a really, really great job with that. We really appreciate it. Then we also were focusing on engagement and cooperative learning at the high school. So in our elementary school actually did the same thing. We kind of went together. Our staff did some research on cooperative learning strategies. They did some PowerPoints and then they actually taught the staff. And so it was really cool. And a lot of those teachers are now grabbing those, using them in their classrooms and inviting us in to see it. So the goal is to hopefully get kids up and moving so they're not just sitting, listening to lecture all the time. This is a new era of children. I mean, when we were kids, we could sit and listen to lecture. Maybe it was boring, but we could handle it. Now with technology, they want that instant gratification. So we're trying to add some more of that into our lessons to make them a little bit more exciting. So that's what we focused on that day. We also had a huge celebration with our math test scores. So as you saw last year, our scores have kind of been on a roller coaster ride. So my goal for our staff last year with our math and our EOC scores was just to go up. Even if it was just 1%, I wanted to see them go in that right direction. So out of 11 tested areas with math and EOCs, we went up in 8 of them. So I was very excited with our staff and I included those in your board report. The only thing I didn't include was our state, the average where the state was. I'll make sure and get those and add them in, and I'll make sure that you have those. You can compare us to our state.
Did we go up or down with regard to the rest of the state?
That's what I need to look up. I
Okay.
forgot to look that up this week. That was my fault. I meant to add that in there, but I will add it in there by next week and make sure that you guys have those. And a lot of times, I mean, by the scores that we have been at least above the state average. So the one big one I saw was our 8th grade math. They're now 9th graders. They were 75% proficient or advanced in math. That's crazy. So I was super excited with that. And when you look at these scores, what I didn't compare like 6th graders this year to 6th graders last year. I compared our 6th graders to what they did in 7th grade. So you're actually taking that one cohort of kids and actually seeing where they're going up. So hopefully our goal is this year, like last year, what we did was we just looked at the data. We used the data, looked at the areas we were low in, and our teachers did a phenomenal job teaching to that. So that's our goal this next year, is hopefully just keep them going in the right direction. Really excited about that. So you might have seen come out our new newsletter, our Wildcat Chronicles. Our business department has actually grabbed that, Mr. Joseph Andrews. He's made it look phenomenal. So we're really excited about that. It's only coming out once a week now because the kids are working on it, but it's got some great information in it. So we really thank him for doing that for us. And then you also have, each one of you has a pamphlet about our crock pot meals. And as you read through there, our special education students in our life skills class, they actually created that pamphlet. So everything you see there, they created it, they got it sent to the printers. So they wanted to share that with you. We're really proud of what they do in that area too. And we had a blast at our fall cup assembly. We were out on the football field, played games, had fun. It was just really cool seeing all those kids in the bleachers and having a good time. So we'll keep it going. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Athletics.
All right, thank you very much for having me tonight. Last year, so I know I gave you a lot this week or this month, I guess. I'm just gonna kind of summarize. If you have any questions, please ask. But last year, I asked you guys if we could implement a summer weights program, and you were gracious enough to allow us to do that. One of my promises was that I'm gonna come back and show you data, evaluate where we were. So what I wanted to do was kind of give you a breakdown of how many students attended, and then just kind of talk about some of the things that I thought were super positive and some of the areas that we definitely want to address, right? So one thing that I really thought was cool is when you look at kind of the spread of or what athletes are attending, most of our students that are attending are multi-sport athletes, right? And so one of our goals, one of the things that I'm super proud of here is that we have multi-sport athletes. So students that play more than one sport throughout the year, and you can see of the students that attended. Those are our kids that are coming. One thing that I did notice, I also gave you kind of what students are attending. You can see that our freshmen and sophomores are definitely the ones that are hitting those weights a lot in the summer. I was kind of disappointed in our junior and senior numbers as well as our middle school numbers. Obviously, that's an area that we need to focus on, address, and come up with a plan going into next summer. And so I just want to share that with you. As far as our conference goes, we finally have a name. So the Central State 8 or CS8. So that was exciting to be able to put out to our community, and I feel like it's pretty catchy. Definitely went through the ringer, back and forth. We wrestled with the name, and that came out on top. And personally, I'm pretty happy about it. We've gotten great feedback about it from our community, from the other school communities. So there's that. I also wanted to include kind of what our agenda was from our last meeting, as well as what we're going to be discussing next time. With the last one, we spent a lot of time, Tipton jumped in kind of at the end there. And so we really want to get them plugged in and just caught up, scheduled, get their feedback as well. And then one big item that we discussed was getting our coaches, our head coaches and directors together so that they can spend some time focusing on what this new conference is going to look like. As far as, their bylaws for their sports, their voting procedures, and give them a chance to look at the rotation schedule that we created. And so there, I just kind of listed the dates. What we really tried to be cognizant of is one, not having them meet during their season, but then two, also not having, 8 to 10 people out of the building all in one day, right? And so we try to stagger them. Next month, 10/11. We're going to start working on our constitution, finalizing our conference schedules so that we can all start finalizing our 24-25 schedules. Work through the logistics of the President's Cup, which I'm very, very excited about. So just a quick explanation of that. We have our conference championships. And so we're going to come up with a point system and essentially have an actual Stanley Cup that travels to the school, whoever accumulates the most points. And so that's a pretty cool thing for school pride, culture, right? So that's one of the things that we really wanted to put into place. And then finally, just finalize the list of what do we need to get done before 24-25 so that we can start that season or that year off right? Have everything hammered out and ready to go. Next, I just included our coaches' comments and kind of a breakdown of every sport and where they stand. Big pictures, we're doing pretty well this year. All the way around. Our middle school program, which made a big change this year, is starting off the year really well. Had some pretty big wins there, and just a great experience for our kids. I also included for our teams that are competing in district tournaments, what class and district they're in, what teams those are, as well in those. And then a summary of our band. Finally, or next, I guess, one thing that we've gotten pretty positive feedback on is our social media. And so I just wanted to update you guys on kind of the new plan with that. So I've created an activities department page on its own. We have lots of great things that are happening here at Osage County R2, right? And they're compiled in one really big stream, right? And I think we've gotten obviously really good results and feedback from that as well. But one thing that I was talking to parents about is sometimes they just want to see, what their kid, like when the games are, what the updates are, and sometimes it's difficult when you have to scroll a ton, right? And so we just want to make sure that we have a centralized location where it's kind of streamlined for athletics and activities. And so that's kicked off, gotten very positive feedback on it. So there's that.
Was that the Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Facebook page.
So
One thing that I am trying to figure out is with our new conference schools, they do a lot of that update on Twitter. And we're not super active on that. And so figuring out a way to link the two, because I want our kids to get the recognition. So there's now a Central State 8 Twitter page where they're kind of compiling all of the accomplishments and accolades that our conference kids are doing. And so that's my next step is how do I get into that process too? Sorry, was there a question? I apologize.
no, no, it wasn't. It was just, I think all of us. I don't plan them that far ahead unless it's on my calendar, but I do appreciate being able to go to that activities page and seeing, okay, what's going on tonight?
Yes.
See if there's something I want to go to.
Yeah, so one thing that I've seen recently that I kind of our next steps in this process is also publishing a weekend glance, right? And so I've noticed a lot of schools, we have Gipper now, just like a lot of these other schools do. Putting out a week at a glance so you can see kind of all the activities that are happening on campus that week. We're working towards that goal. So I think we've made some great strides in our social media presence as far as athletics and activities, but we definitely always want to improve, right? And make the experience better for parents, kids, and our community. And then finally, I really tried to update our handbook, but one thing that I missed. And we ran into the situation last year and we had already ran into it this year, was just kind of our policy and our procedure for how do kids get transported to and from activities. Right, so obviously we want to make sure that all of our kids are getting on our bus, right, and riding, but with our school and kind of the activities that our kids do, there are some exceptions, right? So sometimes, for example, just one example is when a kid is competing for all district choir, but there's also cross country going on. Right, we don't want our kids to not be able to participate in their athletic event or their activities event because they didn't ride the bus to the events. And so in that, I tried to be really cognizant of that specific example. I'm not going to get this right the first time, right? Which is why I'm here trying to get feedback. But at the same time, we have to have a policy and a procedure in place because, for example, last year we had a student after a game was checked out by a friend of the student's parents, right? But then got into a car with someone that was not them, right? And so that obviously is a huge liability. That's an issue. One thing that I always encourage is all kids to ride the bus home too, because I think that's a huge culture piece. My teams always rode the bus to and from, but parents have the right to take their kid out whenever they want, just like they do here. So I think the language becomes a little bit tricky when you're really trying to cover all events, but also be accommodating. And so I just want to make sure that, what we're really trying to do here is partner with parents, right? Help us. One thing that we've really trying to have been increasing is our procedures, instruction, and culture, right? And so really trying to get our teachers, our coaches, our kids to think and plan kind of in the future, right? And so I put this together and I'm hoping that, this is to me, the number one thing is I want our kids to be safe, right? When they're leaving events, I want them to be able to, and us and parents to know, hey, when my kid's leaving an event, they are safely being transported home. And so this is the answer to that. So I just wanted to, at the same time, make sure that you guys are aware of what that policy will be. Obviously, I want to get any feedback and then implement something so we have something safe.
Okay, like this, we have a conversation about this, or this is done.
This is, anything. is
Okay.
reviewed, Right. So,
A couple things.
Yeah.
Let's start with the transportation to the event.
Yeah.
Okay. The only exception is that they're participating in a school sponsored event requiring additional transportation to another school sponsored event. What if a child is at, let's go funeral, for example?
Right.
What do you do there?
well.
You
Number
understand what I'm
one,
saying?
yeah, no.
I'm saying that because I've had it come up.
Yeah,
And like for an afternoon, like meet thing, like, cause like most of our stuff is after school.
Yeah.
Or evening of. You know, it's like not, but then the Saturday mornings tend to have, in my experience with this. Also create some other exceptions that could come up, like there are exceptions. But to me, like if a kid is at a funeral somewhere, I do not think it's unreasonable for the parents to take that kid to that event that afternoon, evening, and for that to be excused.
yeah, 100%. So in here, I put exceptions. The number one will be handled on a case by case basis.
Okay,
But examples may include injury, family, emergency, game delay, et cetera.
absolutely. It just says the only exception would be they are participating in one school sponsored event, what it says in the first paragraph. That's why I brought that up. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, like,
in the first.
And if we do allow for extreme situations like you just mentioned, which you don't want, you probably don't want to put only right there. Because that the parent, the parent's gonna hit that first and they're gonna think that the only thing.
Right.
It's also like stuff. Anyway, because they are rare, but there are times that are perfectly reasonable. For the parent to participate, to transport the kid to the event. It's rare, but it happens.
Yeah.
And maybe include, it's like, and you have in there, like, with the okay of administrator and coach, is that in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
That's-
several,
okay.
several places.
Okay, the ride home
Mhm.
now. Okay, if I'm a parent, I think I have to let you know 24 hours in advance if I'm gonna take my kid home. Is that true across the board?
So what I'm, with the 24-hour rule, what I'm really trying to do again is partner with parents, right? And
I get it.
and ask them to give our kids or our coaches a heads up. Because, I'm thinking about when they're at a tournament, right? And not only are they managing their players, right, but they're often in an unknown environment, right? They're also having to kind of be, again, in that strange environment, but also then coordinate and make sure our kids are getting safe.
Yeah,
So
no,
this is the ideal situation.
I totally get that. Okay.
Never am I gonna say, and I'm gonna tell our coaches this, we're not gonna argue with a parent when they want to take their.
Absolutely not. Like,
Just
like, it's just like,
You
there's
can come pick up your kid 1 minute after the bell rings, all the way until 1 minute before the bell rings, right?
like kids are gonna be released to parents, coach needs to see the parent and the parent needs to sign something,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
That would, my way of thinking, that would be the way it's done.
Yes.
Okay, I think it reads that a parent does have to tell you. 20, that would be the impression I would get from reading it.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong with that, but like that's just kind of the way it looks like to me. And I can just see scenarios come up where the night before things going on, you think the kid's gonna ride the bus and something hit him up, of course. And like, what I mean? Like, dang it, I gotta get him. I gotta go, because we gotta go here or wherever.
Mhm.
And and that's going to be okay, what you've said. Of course, we're not gonna argue that point.
No.
But it reads in a way I think it reads like, I might be wrong here. Yeah, I think it reads like that it has to have 24-hour advance notice if you want to take your child home from an event.
So again, right, number one
So
was,
is that how you read it?
Yeah, and I kind of had some concern.
Okay,
okay, so again, right, I'm trying to put in a policy. Number two, I'm trying to make sure that, right, we're partnering with parents and coaches.
absolutely. No, and I appreciate your work. And like there's, and to,
The parent or 24 hours. The parent needs to notify you that someone else is taking.
Even if the parent,
no, that it reads if you do.
yeah,
But it's like, if you keep going, it's like, it reads, it's gonna be like it always has been.
Right.
But it just, to me, I
So
think maybe-
I just need to clean up some semantics.
I appreciate you taking a look at it.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, I think that, what I mean, look at it from the perspective of the parent reading that thing first time. I think you might kind of see what we're saying here a little
No,
bit.
100%.
But like that-
When you frame it in that way, right?
Right.
Look at, if I want to take Tate home, I would want to take Tate home. right?
Absolutely.
So I 100% agree with that. I just want to make sure that, number one, our parents, guardians, and people that are listed in our infinite campus are the ones that are making that decision.
yes.
Right, because of the examples that I gave you when I started this conversation, right? I want to make sure our kids are getting home safely, right, and eliminating, right, we're liable for their transportation and what happens to them when they leave those events. And so I just want to make sure that we have something in place that.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Is standard. Like, for example, already again this year, I've had a parent ask if a friend of, a friend could take their kid. out.
I had that happen. I know what you mean, exactly. I know what you mean. Like that's, is there an avenue for someone other than the parent to take the child home from the athletic event?
If they're listed in our Infinite Campus as one of their, so essentially, right, so when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that all of our events, right, athletics and activities are an extension of the classroom. Well, how do we handle that in school? Right, the only people that can check out our kids from our offices are people that are listed in Infinite Campus, either as their parent guardian or as an emergency contact.
Grandparents wouldn't be in there.
If they're added, they would be. So they would be considered a non-household relation emergency contact. And so if parents add them, then they would be.
And again, it doesn't happen very much, but just over time, I just remember the parent contacted me before, the day before, saying, hey, such and such is gonna go home with his grandparents that night.
Right. But again, right, I'm sure, one, I was trying to align it to what our school policy is and our district policy. And then two, I mean, I'm thinking about even my own kid. I don't want, he goes to a daycare, right? And in order for someone to check him out, they have to be on our approved list of people to take him out.
But that's fine. I just,
So what I'm hearing is that you would like me to go back and just look at the semantics of how some of these things are worded to accommodate parents being able to take out their kids, right? Which I thought I was in here, but apparently I was mistaken. And then aligning it to more clearly read that they have to be an Infinite Campus or sorry, I missed that one.
I can help you with this.
I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, that I'm not, it's more I could see one of our coaches running into a thing where like. They're just doing they're
Right.
just doing.
And again, part of that is.
And they're gonna get scrutinized, we want to protect them too as much as we can. Obviously.
100%. Which was the original intent of this, right, is number one.
I guess this, I would, the only exception, that word only exception right at the top might be, and then. Again, like you could just look at it, and if you guys don't agree, then that's fine, or just anyone else can weigh into. It reads to me like a parent has to email 24 hours in advance if they're going to take their kid. That just is the way it reads.
No, and again,
So, and maybe if
ideally, right, we have that partnership with our parents and our coaches, right, that they are kind of letting them know ahead of time, hey, this is kind of the plan, right? Again, we're trying to really get everyone to plan, right?
So
So.
I'm I'm just gonna say, so that means that the parents that always take their kids home from events are gonna have to email you or the coach before every 24 hours before every game.
Ideally, so that our
So
coaches
so
know
are you
that.
trying to move to everybody rides the bus home for every sport?
So,
Makes sense to me.
In my
I
opinion,
mean,
right,
I mean, I totally
right,
agree
it's
with you.
a win-loss.
If you win, you should celebrate with your team, and if you lose, you should be miserable on the bus ride back. I mean, it's part of,
Culture piece,
it's part of the
right?
culture.
And that is
Yeah.
something that I've been talking about, I think for a year now, right? It's trying to address our culture piece. So that was not the intent of this, but a byproduct of maybe that would be great, but it's not, the intent was not, hey, we're gonna do this to parents, right? It was, hey, number one, let's partner with our coaches. Right, number two, let's put a policy in place that is going to ensure that our kids are safely being transported home. Right, and just making sure that we have something in place to avoid some of the scenarios that I brought up. That
I'm
happened
just-
last year and
Because
already this
I'm
year.
gonna tell you, you're gonna hear scream.
Which I think is a good thing, because frankly, I think it's a part of a culture that we don't have and need to build.
I'm just saying it's.
And not to, I mean, we had something unofficial, like, and we had, most of our parents do really, I mean, once I addressed some of those scenarios with coaches last year, based on that incident. We had really good responses from our parents about this ahead of time as it was, right? So, but again, when we don't have an official policy in our handbook, right, that then it becomes a cyclic, reciprocal conversation that we're having, right? So I wanted something official in place that, but I understand and I appreciate your feedback, right? So I'll go back and make some edits, run it past you guys, right, and see if there's anything that you'd like me to change and go from there.
I think we'll wrestle with the word must more than anything in this scenario, because I think the spirit of it is, hey, we're all trying to plan, to have a great event, ensure safe and orderly operation. It would help us to know as soon as you know. And so you got to pick a time. If you pick 2 hours, if you pick 4 hours. So generally it's like, if you could let me know, the day before, kind of ends up being a general thing, but we can change that, work with the must to say, hey, and in the spirit of partnership and collaboration, we would appreciate if you could give us advance notice when possible.
That's
That
all
reads
right.
pretty
That's
good.
all right there.
Yeah, or even a should. I mean, should versus you have to, and if you either start or end the whole thing with exceptions may be made.
Something we talk about a lot as a team is being crazy, but not nuts. I already see Erin shaking her head. I say this so often. Yeah, we need procedures, we're trying to organize, 600-700 kids and, 100 staff at any time. So you need those.
Mhm.
And you want those to be your general guidelines so you can consistently operate at the same time. But let's not go beyond crazy into nuts, where if we have a family with a funeral, that we don't dehumanize that family because we have a procedure written somewhere. Let's treat them like they were our family
Right.
and work with them. And so, yep, crazy, but not nuts. High standards, but we're all people, and let's treat everybody well.
All right, got anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Perfect.
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Good conversation.
Yeah.
All right, maintenance.
Hello, everyone. Few things going on since we last talked. We lost 2 custodians, mainly just because of just that. They wanted that it's time for them to move on. Nothing going on there. Have a recommendation for a hire for one of those positions we can discuss a little later. Still need that event custodian that I've been looking for. Billy Joe is still picking up all that, trying to manage all the events that are going through. Schedule and maintenance, right now, we're just working on getting all the HVAC filters changed, making sure that all the coils are clean, everything for the fall. That's the big thing right now, make sure we don't have any more catastrophic failures or anything that surprises. Unscheduled maintenance and repairs would have to be, we did have to repair 4 AC units. One was in a junior high that was just a failed contactor, wasn't getting power on one of the phases, and there. And 3 in high school, refrigerant were issues there, systems losing pressure, having to be charged, and one, we do have an issue with drainage with that in the high school, we have pipes moving, buildings settling a little here and there, and low spots where everything drains from those ground source heat pumps and have to drain into a central drainage system, so if anything's got a low spot, we end up with drainage issues, but we're working on trying to fix all that the best we can. Walking cooler had to be repaired, installed a defrost timer. It was freezing up and not filling the evaporator for it. So just needed a little help getting that through. That way it would cycle better. Repaired the ice machine. It had a bad sensor, nothing major. Expansion tank on the water heater sprung a leak in the elementary this past weekend. We ran up the hometown, grabbed a new, put it in there, nothing big there. Greenhouse we had to replace the swamp water pump. Just routine there, pulled the something up out of the bleacher, bound by the bleacher area and replaced it. It didn't have, or repaired it, didn't have to be replaced. Bad boy motor through another hydro line, which we replaced in the shop. Shop and equipment, routine maintenance on motors. We pulled the hydros, changed the fluids, changed oil and everything, got them ready. Season will be over soon. So leakage in the truck did break. That was fixed by Fenway, just linkage cable. As far as contracted services, Central Fence installed a new fence in front of the bleachers out there. Superior Service called on a few of the AC issues, and they helped me with the ice machine. GMI came down on one Daikin issue in the elementary gym, and it ended up being a high pressure switch. nothing major there. Facility grounds, we installed all the signage around the baseball and softball area, and we got the new one up down here, the elementary sign, and new signs around the track. Saying, you know, we don't find new fence and to get the information on the track. Gave the fence rows last spring, make sure they're all clean and general maintenance and mowing. Future projects, I still want to straighten that fence out. But that's gonna be there's not much ground to work with on that underside. So, I want to fix all the plumbing issues in the greenhouse out there, the irrigation system, after even getting that swamp cooler fixed out there, the irrigation system's got some things. I'd like to get that going good for him. If I can manage it, I'd still like to get the parking lot relined, but that kind of, I fell short on that this summer with everything else. And those jet restrooms are still bothering me. I'd like to get something done to make it a little nicer out there than floors and stuff. Those foul poles, I added that just a little bit ago. I want to take the foul poles down for the baseball field, and I want to paint those because we got the nice ones with softball now. And I'd like to take those down. They're nice for the baseball season. Thinking about making a system where they can be removed too, so I might actually just cut them off, put a sleeve, we can take them down, do maintenance on them, and paint them every few years. That way you're not having to get up there. And I did, I think it worked. It's fine. Now the lead water testing, I'm about halfway done with my initial assessment on that. I will have all the numbers calculated hopefully by next few weeks. And then I can take a look at cost and have either, I'll get a bid on having somebody do it. How much it's gonna cost to get another company to do the samples, how much it's gonna cost for the kits. And I do believe there are 2 grants out there that we can look at and see what we can get done with that. I have to have something put together and a plan by January 1st. So that's one of my next big projects, make sure we're in compliance with that. Other than that, just getting everything all together this week.
All right, any questions? Bob, when we had central fence put in the black fence, did we get a price to go all the way around by chance or not?
No, I didn't get it priced to that because I knew we were gonna need to resurface. But the intent, I would really like to replace it all with that same 4-foot fence. I'm not sure if anybody knows the history behind the reason for the 6-foot fence on the backside, but we did ask them about the cost differences, and it is huge between 48 and 72-inch fence. So I don't know that we need 6 foot along the backside. So we're thinking that direction.
Why did they do it?
I don't know.
I think it would be better uniform. Around the things.
I mean, if you want in there, you're gonna get in there, so what's the difference?
You just climb over the 4-foot zone. Maybe we just thought we'd be going so fast in that second turn. Really? We want to be able to rise up on top of the fence.
All right, good, very good, thank you. Good service.
Hello. I'm gonna be short because I think everything's going really well. We've got an increase of about $111 a day. We're doing about 220 kids on the elementary side and 240 on the secondary side. My staff's been doing really great. They're even coming out and saying, hey, why don't we try this? Why don't we do this? So I think it's really going well.
So when you say an increase of 111, that means in
Same.
revenue, in sales or cost or,
Same.
okay, good.
And that'd be mostly like high school, high school kids. Middle school, high school kids are increasing sales, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Very
Even
good.
idea, we never broke 400 last year cumulatively, and we're over into that 460 mark on average.
Nice.
And
So have
I'm-
our costs gone up too, or?
No, actually, we're behind, we're slightly behind in what our material and goods costs were compared to last year.
Imagine that.
And
Nice work.
all I did honestly is take what we spent last year, divide out, remove our contract costs. Just looked at our service costs, divided it out by the number of weeks. And I think we're about $800 per week ahead right now.
Oh,
And it's the beginning of the year. You always spend more in there. So
Have the kids developed a favorite?
I haven't really had the same thing twice yet.
I say, I know it's early, yet,
I'm proud
but
of
curious.
I'm kind of proud of that too,
She's happy.
because,
It's pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
thank you,
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate what you're doing there.
thank you. I'm enjoying it too.
Superintendent report.
She set the bar high for a brief report, very effective.
I caught that, Bob. I bet you can't either. There's no way, there's no way you can do that. Paul.
We're working on it.
That's a bet.
It's in all of our improvement plans. Facebook is up 40,000 reach, 35,000 engagement. In general, this year just feels better. I can't explain it. We're not without our challenges. It's not better for everybody, but we're working towards that. Personnel and staffing, we're still looking for a few people, still looking for that manager. A couple coaches will address those here in closed session. Professional development, we'll talk about that when I present the professional development plan here in a little while. The big things are exactly what we've talked about last year. Facilities, Cliff spoke to a lot of that, but I've had a few questions about costs there. So just a brief list. Repainting the classroom summer project was about 11,300. We had thought maybe we might spend 40,000. We beat that big time. Inoperable lighting, 6,000, landscaping, 1,000, early childhood playscape. We just PTO carried the vast majority of that, 1,500. We did have about 75,000 in track football improvements. Plus the new fencing on the track, did about 6,000 in updating and upgrading the shot put, another 1,000 in drainage for long jump pits, track repair and repaint 15,000. Softball, baseball, we're about 35,000 by the time we did the infield, the drainage, brought in all the dirt, the new fence. I think we're at 36 or 37,000 that we've invested there. We are looking at those foul poles because they don't look very good. But I want you guys to know those answers. We'll talk a little bit about bond progress here in a minute with the steering committee and Navitas Athletics and Fine Arts. Coach Minix did a great job there. I just briefly, I think our fan culture and atmosphere is improving. It was never bad. I'll tell you, it's even the 6th grade club football game last night was crazy. That was a great atmosphere, and I'm seeing a lot of those same attributes across the board. Budget finance, we're doing the annual audit next week. We're still working on the 2019 tax issue. Just takes a while to get a response back from the IRS. We have a few unanticipated costs, but not to where our AV went up, and we were conservative across the board with our budgeting and early data from food services. It's good. We're ahead. We're providing a better product with a higher degree of satisfaction for less. Doesn't get much better than that.
It does not. Any questions? Perfect. That's pretty quick. All right.
Sorry.
This is summarize a lot.
Action items, district improvement plan.
You've seen the district improvement plan. It is an adaptation of our 5-year plan that was already in place. We just adapted it to meet the MSIP 6 requirements, which essentially just means that we actually had to have SMART goals in there, objective, measurable, SMART goals. So we just adapted that was existed to what our MSIP 6 requirements were and our student achievement data. The big takeaways are objective, measurable, data-driven, concrete goal, processes, instruction, and culture and relationships are our focus. Used a lot of our feedback from our surveys, from this meetings. We had a survey that went out to students, staff, the community earlier this year. We've had committee meetings. We just kind of pulled that together and adapted that to meet MSIP 6 requirements.
Questions?
I would like to see how we are addressing student mental health needs in either the CSIP or the district professional development plan. Of course, we haven't talked about that one yet. It's not in there at all, and that's probably the, I guess, most biggest challenge, might be fair, facing us, in my opinion,
It's a growing concern.
obviously. And we don't address it in our CSIP.
We'll have to go outside for that, which I totally understand. I'll make sure and add something in there, but we'll need to bring some folks in. Well, you probably know more than anybody is. We don't really get trained very well through our certification processes to meet the extreme mental health needs that we have with our kids now.
Right, just like some sort of emphasis on making 100% sure our teachers are equipped with the tools they need to address the changing climate with regards to that. You know, like I think that's important going forward for us to focus on.
I will adapt it and I will send out a new goal for you guys here in the next week. For you to put a stamp of approval and feedback on.
So we need to vote on that one.
We will need to vote on it as with the adaptation.
We comfortable with that? You comfortable with that? Brett?
Yeah, like voting on it now.
Yeah.
And then Bob's.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying, or you're,
Yes, sir.
okay, yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the district improvement plan?
I move to approve the district improvement plan.
Could I get a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Both the same, motion carries. 7.2 District Professional Development Plan.
So we adapted our district professional development handbook, which had acted as our plan for the last several years. The adaptation in the handbook is mostly to swing our alignment towards including the principles in the professional development plan and approval process. Prior to this, they were responsible for the quality of professional development and the outcome, but they were not in the decision-making process at all. So we changed the professional development handbook to mirror that or include them in the process. We also, because the handbook was really just the process to get approval and really wasn't a professional development plan, our elementary and high school pulled together a professional development plan based on mostly our PIC processes, instruction and learning, and culture. Elementary's focusing on 2 need indicators in particular. 5.1 and 7.4. High school is focusing on 5.3, 4.1, 4.3, and 7.1. And theirs are specifically aligned to PIC. Elementary's is, but it's a little with the choice of goals, it's not as clear, but they've outlined internal and external professional development to support our improvement plan and their campus improvement plans.
All right. Discussion, question?
Yeah. Okay, at one, I can't find it now. At one point, it says teachers are supposed to get 2 different assessments, I believe, audited.
So you,
What is that? What's that mean? What's that?
So you actually spoke on this a little bit earlier when you asked Ms. Higginbotham about whether or not our local assessments were in line with map testing.
Right.
What we're finding is some of our units assessments aren't necessarily, they weren't created specifically with the Missouri learning standards in mind. They were created based off of a topic. Well, that topic, if you were just to say the topic is the 3 branches of government, that is a topic that you could make a unit on, you could make an assessment, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the standard for the 3 branches of government, say in our high school government class, that standard is included in the topic. It might say something like student understands the relationships amongst the 3 branches of government and can evaluate this, right? So we have tests that are aligned with topics versus tests that are aligned with Missouri learning standards. So when we say we're going to audit it, we're going to look at number 1. And if it says, you know, what year was Abraham Lincoln the president, we're going to ask, audit it and say, what the Missouri learning standard asks us about our presidents in some way. Then we're gonna read it, and if it says that maybe the Missouri Learning Standard says that students understand the impact of individual presidents on America as a whole. Then for me, we do have a question about a president, but it is not an appropriate depth of knowledge because we're not asking the student if we know what their birth date was or what the year is. What we want to do is we want to align that assessment to say, what was the impact of Abraham Lincoln as the 16th president of the United States? And that be how we audit it and how we adapt it so that it is actually in line with that standard.
Okay, well, who's doing the auditing? I guess my question.
Principals will lead teachers in subject matter.
Okay, so like to sit down, like the teacher like sits down and goes, like they select to the. Okay, we selected a unit, we selected a summative assessment. What are they selecting?
We leave it pretty broad, so I'll leave Aaron to that. So our goal,
talking
Like a unit test or something?
The test is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, like.
So like my.
It reads that the employee does need to audit, the teacher needs to audit, it says.
So the first step
Two
we're gonna have to do is actually teach the teachers how to do that, because like he was saying, I feel like a lot of our tests that we have a lot of fluff in them. It might be stuff that's not really an actual specific learning.
No, I get it, just I'm saying like,
So, yeah,
so you're auditing it's like, it's an old school term, I'd call it a summative assessment, right? Like a unit test or
Yes.
something?
So what I want them to do is, so on a PD day, I'm gonna have to say, okay, everybody pick one of your unit assessments, bring it to our PD day. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have them go through their actual test and look at their standards right next to it and say, okay, number one matches this one, number two. And then they might get to number three and be like, oh, that doesn't
No, I
match
get it.
anything.
I understand what you're saying, I just didn't know if it was like the
Scratch that
whole,
question.
didn't understand what the audit entailed, what you're asking a
Yes.
teacher to do, just was really curious more than anything else.
And what we're hoping is that once we go through a few of these tests with the teachers and kind of the process, they're gonna start whenever they create tests, think about that at the beginning and figure out what questions match as they go. So it's pretty much training our teachers to what we're gonna be doing.
Anything else? Nope. All right, very good. Can I have a motion to approve the district professional development plan?
I move we approve the district professional development plan.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. All right, next up, RFP, RFQ for lead testing.
so request for proposals, we have a couple of choices here. We can send Mr. Wilson out to be trained to do our lead testing, or we can contract that. If we decide to contract that, we'll need to go ahead and run an RFP so that we're ready to actually choose a contractor and execute that in the spring. So by running our RFP now, we're just anticipating that drop for January 1. And if we choose to send Mr. Wilson for training or choose somebody who submits a proposal, we'll just be ready for that. An RFP doesn't mean that we're committed to choosing that. We'll just know our options and can execute them right away.
Okay, so we're just looking at multiple flexibility.
Yep.
By doing
Absolutely.
RFP, that may not be what we do, but
Yep.
okay. Discussion? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the RFP, RFQ for lead testing?
I'll make a motion to approve the RFP, RFQ for lead testing.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same? All right. That carries. Discussion item, Senate Bill 190 and budget implications.
All right, Senate Bill 190 essentially provides a tax shelter for Social Security recipients. Of particular importance is the county has to adopt that. So if we were to adopt that, it would freeze the assessed value of their residence at whatever that value was at the age of 65. And that's the value that they would pay their taxes on in perpetuity there. So if they pay $10 when they're 65, we have a 5% increase, and it would have been $10.50. They will be taxed at $10. That 50-cent increase won't apply to them. Just a preliminary look at our demographics. We have 12.9% of our population that are 65 and older. That's not to say that we don't have additional people on Social Security, because you get it for a variety of reasons, but I just use that. So we could potentially lose 5% of that 13% increase in AV. We could lose a little bit of money there. There was some discussion as House or Senate Bill 190 was passed about, wait a minute, if we're going to begin tax sheltering different groups inside school districts, what about funding? Which brought up a long-standing conversation about the state adequacy target, which our SAT has been in Missouri for years and years, $6,375 per student. So as a mitigating measure, we're actually changing the state adequacy target over the next 2 years, beginning next year, kind of meeting halfway, going from 6,375 to 6,760. And then fiscal year 25, going all the way to $7,145 per student, which does, our net effect is positive. And so we are likely to have a little bit more money as a result of that, that we'll have some options in what we do with it here in the future. For the meantime, though, our only 6 counties in Missouri have adopted Senate Bill 190. I have no idea if we will or not. If we do, that'll be the effect. But either way, the SAT is going up and stair stepping the next 2 years, which is good for us and good for Missouri students.
Okay. Does the board need to take a position on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Does it help for us to take a position on that?
I don't know that it would necessarily. I think that that would be kind of a community standard thing. I think that would all be handled at the county. I'm open to suggestion though. Got a lot of great minds.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean, anytime we can get more money to the school, that's a good thing.
I'm sure Hobart County would.
What's that?
I would sure Hobart County would not adopt that.
No, I would agree with that. Any other discussion?
Can I ask a question about, just for clarification? Do you as an agency, as an OEA, you have to adopt it if the county adopts it, or is it automatic if the county does it, if you're bound to it?
The
There
second
are some
option,
agencies that I've talked to that said they weren't sure which way it was going to go.
my understanding is that that decision happens at the county level. Our deposit of county tax money would just change as a result. We wouldn't have any effect on
You
that.
wouldn't have to make secondary vote to
No, sir.
follow this, well, thank you.
All right. 8.2 staff hours versus business hours.
This is an example of discovery learning as we're going through policies and just taking a look at what's written in policy and regulation versus how we actually operate. So I outlined there in regulation 4120, personnel services. It talks about normal working day and the teaching day. And our current regulation states that staff are required to be on duty 15 minutes prior to and 15 minutes after our teaching day, which our teaching day is 7:45 to 3:45. That would mean our staff would arrive at 7:30 and leave at 4. Operationally, that's impossible. For instance, just take a look at breakfast. We would have to have students arrive at 7:30 and everyone eat in 15 minutes and feed a class. So we open the cafeteria at 7:15. Well, our staff has been doing a great job of providing supervision at that time, but it's really not in line with our regulation. And the same thing about parent pickup. We are rarely just done by 4 o'clock. Again, our staff has done a great job. They're making sure our kids get home safely, but our regulation is not in line with our practice. As part of the discussion, I would like your feedback, and then I would also like to recommend that I work that language so that it makes sense with what we're actually doing. So that our habit and operation is in line with our regulation and policy.
Thoughts?
That makes sense.
I mean, yeah.
Also, if all of the teachers showed up at exactly the same time, which I'm glad that they don't, it would be an absolute disaster out here. I mean, if they all came at the same time that all the parents were coming.
What do you think, like 7:15 and, or 7:15, 4:15, that type of thing?
So what
when we
the
look at it,
language
probably-
that I would propose would say something like, administrators are required to establish duty hours that are conducive to a safe and orderly learning environment each year, and then they would propose those for review to the board and to me every year after that, if they're gonna change and, you know, we're gonna have this group come in at 7. Those things would be like for review like anything else. But if you write the regulation to offer some flexibility, then it gives them a chance to work with their staff to figure out what makes sense. The balance, though, and I think I mentioned this in my notes, is you don't want to create something where we're here, everybody here till 5 o'clock every day either. Those should be rare things that go outside of what I would call reasonable. And so just instill some flexible language in there and then monitor yearly so that we can plan according to whatever the conditions are at that time.
Teachers aren't getting paid for that extra 15 minutes when you said, are they?
Work, our contracted teachers aren't hourly, so no, so we have that extra duties as assigned actually written in there for that reason. Hourly folks do, so our hourly staff.
You're asking them, you know, if they've already come in at 7:15, if that's what they're used to. Is that, you know, you could theoretically. What? Yes, we come in at 7. I mean, can you just change the timing without contract changes or anything like that, or is it just, I'm just curious. How
You
that
could.
works.
You can, and that's kind of one kind of nuance of contracted staff versus hourly staff. Technically, until you really got out of round, you have quite a bit of flexibility that's inherent in contract language. Again, the balance though is for an administrator, don't create an environment that your staff hates so much that you don't have a staff to hate you as much as they hate the policy. And so you got to balance that, make people feel valued. Definitely make sure that they understand that we're as invested in their professional life and that environment as we are their family and personal life too. They've got to have work-life balance.
All right, further discussion? Okay. On committee update.
We had our first steering committee on September 13th. We had parents, some business members, some of our students and administration just work through some of the options for bonding, talk about scope of work, talk about phasing. Got some priorities in that I've listed out there. Still probably number one is getting our students out of the middle school basement. Parking and parking are tied for second, third, and fourth. Safety and security, HVAC, and the middle school, general facility aesthetics. That's going well. We're sent out a survey to those participants to just ask them what their thoughts were about how we could better equip them to have those conversations in the community. Because what we hope the steering committee does, is we hope they go out to the committee and say, hey, this is what we talked about. What do you think, Bob? What do you think, Steve? What do you think, Frank? And then they bring that back. So we've asked them how we can equip them better for those conversations. And then we also asked for some feedback. Tell us what went well about this meeting and what didn't go well about this meeting. And then we're going to adapt to that. We'll keep moving forward.
Any discussion there? Have you had a discussion? It sounded like the first meeting might have been a little bit rough. Have you had a discussion with either, was it our owner's rep or was it our architect that kind of the feeling that maybe they weren't as prepared as they should have been?
I have already had that discussion. That's part of the reason that we have that feedback question at the end over the meeting is we have some room to improve that. To be real fair though, not necessarily to anybody. My first round of doing this, I had a much different role as a high school principal for 15 years. I don't know that I'm very good at it either. And so I definitely agree. A lot of folks, we can do that.
Okay. When is the next meeting? It's
We'll
it's
be
not
done.
scheduled yet.
It's not scheduled yet. You'll receive, what is that? He sent something out. I forget whether it's, I want to say Wordle, but I know that that's a word game on your phone. Doodle. Yes, it's Doodle. Then they'll send out and figure out the best time. I'm horrible with, I'm not hip like the kids, as you can tell by the use of my word hip.
All right. Very good. Any further discussion on the bond committee? Anybody? All right, water tower.
Water tower. So just briefly to the audience, we have our water tower has been kind of a fixture of our community for a long time. I even tell people, hey, you'll pop out the east side, just look to your right, you're gonna see a silver water tower. That's where we're at. I think there are some opportunities to market. You know, I'm looking up there and I'm thinking, how do I make a sign big enough to see all the way in CC so that people can know? And then I'm looking at this giant water tower. I'm thinking, well, why don't we use that? It has been decommissioned for water storage. There is some valving and directional plumbing below it, so we're still redirecting. But the water tower itself, even if it weren't decommissioned, it's pretty common to mark to brand or logo those. I just wanted to talk to you guys and see. I'd love to see it either painted red or white. I personally prefer red for some reason, just because I want to see giant block letters that say WILDCATS, maybe with our Wildcat logo on the top, work on some lighting. And I would love to kind of just capitalize on that and just make a big statement from the road. A lot of people, well, everybody knows, a lot of people cross by the intersection of CC and Highway 50 more than we want or can count sometimes. But I'd like to capitalize on that and just wonder what your thoughts are. It could be a substantial cost. Paint a water tower is probably $15,000-$20,000 would be my guess. A giant sign, you might be able to speak to that better than anybody in the room. Making a sign that really made that sort of statement that you could read from the highway. I look at marquees, you know, my marquee at JC that we put in there, I think that was like 75, 90,000, somewhere in that range. 15 or 20 does, you know, of course, it's not digital, but thoughts on that? Are you interested in me pursuing that? If we don't like the price tag, or we don't like it, we can just say no later, but I'd really like to take a look. And the water departments in general are open to that, but ours seems generally receptive.
Any thoughts on that?
I think it's great.
Cost days at least.
I'd be curious. I'm guessing you could not get an engineer to say you could, but could you put a billboard on the top of the thing? It would mean it would jump out at you.
That would be kind of, I didn't even think that, but my only thought would be wind load, like whatever you.
Well, that's why I don't think you can get an engineer that would say it's okay. I guarantee it'd be fine, but.
You're gonna have drones flying up.
All right, Neil, don't say I brought that up. That'd be like talking about putting parking underneath the dome. Let's not put that on there.
We're not, wait a minute, we're not putting parking.
All right. But no, I think that's a great idea. I figured it was just gonna be a white water tower, black, but yeah, have a big red Wildcat water tower that would jump out at you. Yeah. Okay, proceed. All right, the next regular meeting of the Osage County R2 School District Board will be October 19th at 6:30. Could I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
Move we adjourn to closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subsections 13 relative to personally identifiable employment information, 3 personnel actions, 6 personally identifiable student information, 1 legal actions involving a public body and or privileged communications among that body and its representatives attorneys.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Motion carries. We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you, everyone, for coming.